What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Photography Things with your completely unknown photographer at the Harvey Dean. Roll it! So it's a new decade, a new year, and what better way to kick off 2020 than to talk about our favourite topic as film photographers, fainting goats.
No.
Film cameras, shows, who do you think I am? Now, I've been delving deep into the world of film photography for a little while now, and that started back in late 2018 when I climbed into the ceiling of my parents' house in the middle of summer when it was 35 degrees and 40 plus in the ceiling, and dug through every single box up there until I realized that the camera was in the very last one, which was on the ground. So, yeah. Found it. So let's get right into it and talk about my top favorite film cameras in 2020. So this first camera is one that is quite commonly referred to when being asked what camera you should buy when you want to get into 35mm photography, but if you know nothing about 35mm photography, then let me give you some insight into that. And that is this old faithful thing right here, the Pentax K1000. So this is a camera that always gets brought up, and the reason that it does is because it's just a great all-round 35mm SLR. Just a classic build, nice and sturdy. It's fully mechanical, so what that basically means is that well, I'm not 16 anymore. So what that means is that it does take a couple batteries, but it doesn't need those batteries to operate, and so it just powers the light meter inside. So if the batteries die, then the light meter inside just won't do its light metery thing, as opposed to some cameras which have electronic shutters, which means if the batteries die then you can't use them anymore. This is not like that, it's mechanical, so if the batteries die you can keep using them, which is super handy. Another one of the reasons that I find this camera really useful and just a great camera to use is because it is fully manual, so it has no automatic mode. So if you are someone that has depended on shooting automatic for a long time, I would recommend getting a manual camera because it will actually teach you how to do your aperture, ISO, and shutter speed. I shot digital for about 3-4 years before I got my first film camera, and I really found that making the jump to film, especially a fully manual film camera, really just honed that skill of being able to know like how to substitute what settings and what lighting situation, which is a really important skill to have. So yeah, great all-round camera to use. It is an SLR as well, so it operates the same way as a digital camera, which basically just means you look through the viewfinder, you're looking straight through the lens, so you know exactly how your photo is going to turn out. It does also take really good photos. I forgot to mention that this was my first film camera, so I had a lot of fun just trying a whole bunch of different roles and getting to kind of explore the world of film. So if you are after a really good basic film camera to learn on, and you want to really learn how to do your lighting settings and all that jazz, get the K1000, do it. So the next camera on my top cameras of 2020 is probably my favorite purchase that I invested in 2019, and that is this camera right here. It is the Voigtlander Bessa R2a. It's probably one of my favorite cameras that I own, at least my favorite 35mm camera that I own. And that's for a number of different reasons. The first one being that it's a rangefinder. So if you don't know what a rangefinder is, essentially, rather than looking through the viewfinder and seeing straight through the lens like you would on the K1000, with this one you look straight through the viewfinder, and instead of seeing through the lens, you're just seeing through the square here. So you're not looking through the lens, you're looking through here. And there's two patches that have to sit over each other. So there's kind of like a ghost patch, and then there's the focus patch. And once you line the ghost patch over the focus one, then you know that your image is going to be perfectly in focus. I just find it a lot easier than an SLR because you always know that your image is going to be perfectly in focus, whereas with an SLR, you kind of just have to guess, or you have to zone focus. But with this one here, you can just put the patches over the top of each other. It doesn't matter what f-stop you're at, you're just always going to get a perfectly in focus image. I find it's really useful when you've got something like a 50mm f1.4 or anything that can stop down to a lower aperture. It means that you're always going to nail the focus. For that reason, I really enjoy the rangefinder systems. Another reason that I really enjoy this camera as well is that it does take Leica glass. I have yet to use Leica glass, but it is something that I am probably going to invest into in the future, and I know that's a reason that a lot of people will get cameras like these, because they do take Leica M glass. So if you want to get a Leica M6 or any of the M series cameras in the future, this is a great camera to invest in, a great system to invest in, because you can also get the Leica M glass and put it on these things. So I don't personally know that I would ever invest in a Leica M6. I know that they're really sought after and they're like this holy grail of 35mm photography, but I personally find that the Bessa R2a is a really good substitute. You can get Leica M glass. It has a maximum shutter speed of 1/2000th of a second as well, which the M6 only has a has a maximum shutter speed of 1/1000. Man, that's so hard to say in English. But the Voigtlander Bessa R2a has a maximum shutter speed of 1/2000th of a second. It basically means you got a whole extra stock, which I personally find really handy, and I think I probably would get an M6, but for now I just really love the Bessa series. I just great cameras, great lenses, super sharp photos, and I just really enjoy using the rangefinder system as well. So if you've never tried rangefinder, look into it. It's quite different from SLR, and a lot of people either one or the other, but I personally find rangefinder is a lot easier to use, but definitely look into it. I only really have a couple downsides with this camera. One particular downside, like I mentioned earlier, was that this does have an electronic shutter, so if the batteries die, it means I can't take photos anymore. But I just carry a couple batteries in my pocket and it solves that problem. And they usually last a long time as well. They're usually good for about 25-30 rolls. The only real downside to this camera now is that they are quite expensive. I know that I got mine for about $600 with a lens, but if you scroll through eBay now, you'll see them on there for like anywhere between $1,200 and $2,000 just for a body, which is a ridiculous amount of money now, but I was quite lucky that I got mine a lot cheaper. If you do ever come across an R2a or even an R2M, which is the manual version, definitely look into it. Would highly recommend. So 2019 was an interesting year for me in the sense that I sold my entire Canon digital system, switched to Fujifilm. Shortly after that, I started experimenting with 35mm film, and then it was probably 4 months later that I got my first medium format film camera, which can easily be mistaken for a murder weapon, and that is this thing right here. It is the Mamiya RB67. Here on the interwebs on YouTube, almost everyone will be shooting the RZ67, probably for that reason that the prices of them are just skyrocketing. If I were to get one here in New Zealand, it's like $2,000. But one of these things, you can probably get for $200. And to be honest, they're probably going to give you the exact same results. A lot of the reason people will go for the RZ is because it's apparently slightly lighter, and it also has all of the latest lenses as well. But if you're not super worried about shooting all the latest lenses and all that jazz, get one of these because they take amazing photos, and I actually genuinely mean that. When I put my first roll through this thing, I had no idea how to use it, and so I butchered the entire first roll, but once I figured out how to use it and how to meet it properly, the photos are so amazing. If you've never tried medium format, I highly recommend making the jump. Just give it a go. You'll honestly be mind blown. The photos that come out of this thing are freaking insane, and I think it's so underrated as well. Like everyone on YouTube's shooting the RZ, but the RB, you gotta give that puppy some credit. I probably only really have one downside to it, and that's that it weighs a freaking ton. Like this thing is super heavy, but I still shoot portraits, landscape, everything in handheld. I have done a bit of tripod stuff, but it honestly doesn't bother me that much. Just like tossing it in my backpack, just getting it out and shooting what I have to shoot. It's not really that big a deal for me. But if you are someone who is going to be doing like a lot of landscape work, a lot of stationary work, get a tripod. It'll save you waking up the next day with arms that feel like rocks. Unless you want to get swole, know what I'm saying. But like I said, you've got to try out medium format. The 6:7 aspect ratio specifically, the negatives are amazing, the image quality, the way that medium format just renders color film is absolutely amazing. Give it a go. Highly recommend. Now this last camera, it was not cheap. Yeah, it was a lot. I kind of regret how much money I spent on it, but also I don't, because the photos that come out of it are amazing. And you can probably see it sitting behind me. It's this thing right here. It is the Pentax 6x7, pretty popular camera in the film world, and for good reason, because it just takes beautiful photos. I think once you own one of these things and you're scrolling through Instagram or whatever, you know when a photo's been taken on the Pentax 6x7, especially if it's got this lens on here, the Takuma 105mm f2.4. It's actually the reason that I bought the camera, and I know that's really dumb, but I'd heard amazing things about this lens, especially for portrait, which I have yet to shoot because I haven't had it that long. I've managed to put a few rolls through and shot some landscape stuff, so I'll flip through some of that now. but this thing takes probably the most amazing photos I've ever seen. Any of the Pentax 6x7 or 6.7 iterations are worth investing in, but I personally think that this one is the best and it's the most affordable, and it's definitely worth giving it a go because the photos that come out of this thing are amazing. I honestly can't really even think of many like bad things about this camera. It's just really awkward to carry. It is pretty heavy though, like if you threw it at someone, they would probably die because of how heavy it is. So if you're looking for a murder weapon that takes great photos, the Pentax 6x7 is your boy. Would recommend. So thanks for tuning in to my top, whatever you want to call this. These are just a few of my favorite things. Sorry, that was really weird. These are a few of my favorite film cameras. They're just some of my personal preferences. I know that everyone will have other cameras that they really enjoy using, but these are just some of the ones that I enjoy using. So if you have some cameras that weren't on this list and you want to suggest them, throw them in the comments. I'd love to hear them because I'm always down to try new cameras. But thanks for tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel. It does help. See you later.